Sports Lounge 173. It's Charlie Hildebrand and Travis Crins, the monthly show of Villanova. Either that's a Villanova shirt or a Vader shirt. I'm not sure which one. But, we'll go with Villanova right now. So
I wanted to remind everyone of what it's like when really good championship basketball games are played, and also the V represents the Roman numeral for how many games this series is going to go.
Would you say you're the opposite of Bob Knight then?
I don't personally know Bob Knight. I'm probably the opposite of Bob Knight in a fair amount of ways, though. I'm much better looking.
I mean, I saw the quotes from Bob Knight in Sioux Falls teaching a camp for a Sanford thing they put on every summer, and then I saw a 45-second clip of it, which was just the best thing I saw all day. And it was the Sioux Falls guys asking him, NBA Finals, any thoughts on that? Like, I don't even know who the hell's playing. I don't care about the NBA. Like, why don't you care about it? I'd rather be fishing and whatever the hell, hunting, whatever else he said, golfing. And I don't care about it. I've never cared about the NBA. And the guy from the Argus says, "Oh, did you recruit Mike Miller when he was in college or in high school?" And this was literally like 20 years ago. The guy's like, "Well, hell, 25 years ago, how the hell do I know?" And, maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But damn near 80-year-old Bob Knight couldn't give a shit about being in Sioux Falls yesterday, nor should he. 95 degrees. He didn't give a crap. So, there you go. The gun thing, we'll get to the gun thing here in a little bit, but O.J. Simpson documentary, I guess, 30 for 30, 5-part deal, 2 hours each with commercials, so this whole thing is going to be, a good 7-8 hours long. First one was on ABC last night. The rest will be on ESPN throughout the rest of this week. So, and as Charlie was mentioning off air, this is apparently the best thing ESPN has ever done. People that have seen it. You said you were not going to watch, but this is what made you watch last night.
Yeah, I didn't plan on watching it. It was just that I remember over the last 4 or 5 days, like on Twitter, I mostly just follow sports people, and there were a lot of different sports people from varying places that were just like, this is truly fantastic. And after about the 4th of those I saw, I was like, I can start watching it, and if it's not any good, I don't have to keep watching it afterwards if I start not liking it. So I started it, and I thought the first one was pretty good and interesting.
So you will continue to watch?
I will continue to watch as of now. I would imagine. I mean, at this point, I'm guessing I'll probably end up watching the whole thing. If I thought the first one was good enough, that if the rest of them are like that.
David, do you plan on to watch this at some time?
Yeah, absolutely. I didn't get to see it last night, but I'll see all of it sooner or later, I'm sure.
Why do you think people care about this O.J. Simpson thing? FX had that deal there a month ago or whatever, that miniseries with actors redoing the deal. And this has been 20 years from now. It was a big deal. Like, this is 20 years from now, and why do people care about this so much?
Just the mysteriousness of the whole situation and the way the court case went and all the famous people that were involved in him, and it fascinated the entire generation, and it's still fascinating to many of those people that are now older and wiser and still have questions and want to know more and want every single detail that they might have forgot 20 years ago. It's just a story that I'm not necessarily all that interested in, but the way the production value and the way it's been portrayed, it's something that I'm interested in watching for sure.
I think it is interesting that there's so many people that just go crazy about consuming all of this stuff after it happened. I mean, I think that we were all alive when this happened, but young enough to not even remotely know or understand what was going on.
I was 6, 7 years old when this happened. I remember it was always on the news because the trial took, however long it took. But I don't, like you said, I don't remember. I mean, I remember that it was just always on the news.
Yeah, I remember it was the thing that was on and that it happened, but and that OJ had allegedly killed this lady and this guy, and that was the extent of what I knew about him. It wasn't until I think a modern American history class that it was I guess I get sort of why it's a big deal, but it's odd that 20 years later there's such an appetite for it. But And I remember hearing or reading this somewhere but I guess part of it is probably, at least as far as I know, in the United States, that O.J. Simpson is the most famous person ever charged with murder before. So that's probably an element, or at least part of it.
Was there a theme to this first episode, you thought? Or did it? Or do you suspect there is a theme to this whole thing? Besides just telling the story?
I think there will be a theme. I don't know what it is yet. It kind of jumped around. You know, it was 2 hours long. I mean, I'm guesstimating here, but it seemed like the first half hour or 45 minutes was the
college years.
The problems that the blacks in Los Angeles had with the police department, and kind of describing what that was like, and then it just kind of pivoted, and it was like, well, and this is what OJ was like in college and in his Buffalo years, and when he did the Hertz commercial and did all those, I mean, not all, but did movies or whatever too.
The thing is the theme that I'm going to go with here. What I think it's about. How it starts as he is not seen as a black guy. That is the theme. He's like one of the first black athletes to endorse things, and he is not seen as a black guy. But then as we get towards this year and what happened with his trial and all that stuff, I think that'll come full circle and it'll be a 180, and it will be like he is the black guy. He is like the lead black guy for this. He's the face of whatever is going on in Los Angeles, whether that was back in the 60s or in the 90s. So I think that is what the theme is going to be. We talked a lot about Ali last week and everything that he did outside of sports. And David, O.J. Simpson here, the theme they're going with was he was like a white guy. People did not see him as black, and he did not speak out against things like Jim Brown did, or Ali did, or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, or Bill Russell did. So, like, they think he was like, was he playing a character? That's kind of what they're alluding to. Was he playing a character? He knew how to play the game because the first thing, one of the first things they say is he wants to be famous. He doesn't care about the money. He just wants to be known. I think he succeeded in that. So do you think he was very good at knowing what to do to make himself famous?
It certainly seems that way, looking back at it, at the way it all played out. I don't know if he had any intention of becoming this legend of sorts in the way that he has. I don't think this is the way that he had planned it all out, but certainly famous. If you want to be famous, he's damn sure that, if not a moron on top of it. But it very interesting. I guess I don't, as far as, I'm not the go-to guy, and I could honestly care less about the whole thing. But like I said, enough people got interested in it, and enough people, and I've read enough about it to watch the documentary or whatever. But I don't have a whole lot of other quote-unquote hot takes other than that.
I know while I was watching it, it kind of seemed like, or at least this at some point, it stuck out in my mind of, you know, you've got all these black athletes like trying to stick up for things and to do things for the civil rights movement, and OJ just, and it wasn't even necessarily that he was against that, he just didn't want to be involved with it, period. And it kind of reminded me of, like, I would say that it was basically like what Michael Jordan did 20 years later with a lot of stuff, with the difference being that Michael Jordan played in a much bigger media market and had much more team success than OJ did. I mean, we could debate. I mean, and Michael Jordan might have been a better basketball player than OJ was a running back. But, you know, when there's all these guys that are saying, you know, we want to do it this way, and we're going to try to use our platform to stand for something, which is completely fine and valid. Also, at the other degrees, there's going to be some people who are going to be like, nope, I'm going to try to maximize my profits and create as much capital as possible and just not get stuck in dealing with things that some people would just look at negatively, whether they should look at it negatively or not.
Did he have a more positive impact by not saying anything and becoming kind of that standard bearer, not traditional black athlete? He kind of changed how people viewed black athletes, or would he have more impact if he would have been with all those other guys?
That's a good point. I mean, you could make a case that what he did work, just in the sense that, I mean, I think they talked about it. I don't remember all the details, but that, like, he was the first black guy that, like, white America was like, oh yeah, I don't have any problem. Like, not only do I not have a problem with him endorsing stuff, but, like, I will buy this or use this because he endorsed it. Now, I mean, I don't want to get into, like, which way's better. I mean, I don't know. I wasn't alive back then, but I think certainly he made at least somewhat of a positive impact that obviously was essentially undone decades later. But
is there an athlete you could compare him to? He was great in college. First 3 years of the NFL weren't very good. They thought he was a bust. Then he had a couple great seasons. Played like 10, 11 years. Then got into the movies and commercials even before he left football, and then had a good broadcasting career and all that. Is there a guy that comes to mind that is like that?
The first guy I can think of off the top of my head, just while you were asking the question, and it's a different kind of athlete, but it sort of is like The Rock in some ways, it seems like. Where it's just like, yep, I'm really good at this, and then all of a sudden it was kind of like, I think I can set my bar even higher than this, and found a way to do it, and was at least, I mean, relatively successful. We can debate to what degree. Both of them have been movie stars. I think The Rock's probably been better, but I mean, they certainly found a way to turn that into their careers. They didn't have to keep doing sports or sports entertainment.
David, any guy come to mind for you?
Not really, but The Rock's a decent example, and that's one that makes a lot of sense. And I'd argue that The Rock has been a lot more successful than OJ was, and I'd even go to the far as saying that The Rock, his movie career is basically, it's probably hasn't exceeded, but it's damn near on par with his wrestling success at this point. He's only getting bigger and bigger every movie that comes out with him in it. So he's been more successful after his original career path versus OJ.
How about Michael Strahan?
Nah, maybe, but Strahan's across all the different venues. I'm amazed, and I'm sure you are too, about Strahan's success outside of football. It's that lovable, quote unquote lovable, big cuddly black bear, or whatever you want to call him. But he does a fine job. He's had a lot of support, a lot of push, and he hasn't done everything himself. He's got a lot of help along the way. But I guess that would be another decent example.
I think Strahan's probably a better example of mine. And whenever he starts, especially if he does movies, that it's kind of like a guy that's like, oh, well, yeah, he's okay, but never is as successful at it as The Rock is.
Yes, Strahan's been in, I think, one movie for sure, maybe two already, so he's starting down that path anyways.
I remember that one time he played that role where he beat Tom Brady when the Patriots were undefeated.
Hell of a role.
Surprise ending, and they won. And then he retired. He said, I won my Super Bowl. He went to Buffalo there. Obviously didn't like Buffalo. Does Buffalo get a bad rap, for Christ's sake? We saw the 30 for 30 thing. I mean, this ain't Cleveland, for Christ's sake. 30 for 30 thing, and it shows like you're in fucking eastern Russia here. It's all tundra. There's nothing.
Sent off to the gulags.
I mean, is it that? I've never been to Buffalo. Probably not ever going to get there. It can't be that goddamn bad. I mean, it's not 20 below all the time. I'm sure it's 90 degrees there like it is everywhere else in the country right now. I'm sure it's not among the major towns. I'm sure it's not in the top 75%. But goddamn, I mean, is that unfair to have all these fucking it's ice and it's snow and the wind? I mean, is that real or is that played up too much?
No, it's pretty real, Travis.
What? How far is Toronto away? And Toronto doesn't get this deal. What is Toronto? An hour away?
Yeah, but it's on the other side of the fucking body of water that makes Buffalo.
Get the goddamn body of water. Let's go.
It's the body. It's all the water's fault. But it's not unbearably cold. But it's snow and snow and snow and snow. If you don't like snow, don't live in Buffalo. And it's still pretty cold on top of that. Not to mention it's fucking Buffalo, and the economy's been shit for 30 years too. So that doesn't help anything.
I've never been to Buffalo. My guess, though, is that a lot of it is just that, like some guys aren't going to want to, a lot of guys just aren't going to want to go there because they know it's cold and they're from somewhere that's just always warm. So that's going to put Buffalo in one of, 5, 6, 8 places that they just don't want to play, period. And then in addition to that, Buffalo's just not as big as, Chicago or even like Cleveland or Cincinnati or Detroit. So I think that's a big part of it, is that if you're from, like if you're a college football player at USC or Miami or Georgia Tech, and I just say that because I know it's in Atlanta, but places like that, these big cities where it's warm all the time, and it's like, oh, I don't want to go to this small, cold city. And I mean, I'm completely speculating, but my guess is like if they went to Chicago, they'd be like, well, I don't like the cold, but Chicago's this vast city that people always say how great it is, and I mean, I've never been to Chicago either, but so it's I don't think it's just the cold. I think it's the cold would also just be in a city that's just not apparently doesn't have as much stuff as other cities do.
I love the part where they're interviewing the one fan. He's out in his chair in the middle of the goddamn parking lot outside the stadium, and it's like, I don't know, it looks like it's like 30 degrees out and the wind's blowing.
It's like, yeah, he was playing in this game and it was snowing, and then he's like, kind of like it is here right now.
I'm like, what in the hell? This is the most stereotypical thing you've ever seen. I mean, it was just the goddamnest thing you ever saw.
That was your favorite part?
You said you liked the dice.
My favorite was the dice in the bathroom.
This was very good. This was a very good story. Tell the story here.
It kind of reminded me of something that sort of happened to me when I was in like elementary school. But I mean, I won't tell it as long as the guy in the show did. But it's essentially O.J. Simpson and 2 or 3 other kids are playing craps in the bathroom. The dice game craps, not some other game craps. But like, as they look up and then they see like this big guy with like wingtip shoes and wearing a tie, and it's their football coach who's like, you can't do this. I'm taking you to the principal's office. And they're all in, filed in line, following their coach to the principal's office, and OJ's the last in line. And they said the whole way there, he was like, man, if you take us there, we're going to get suspended, and we're not going to be able to play, and you don't want this to happen. And the coach doesn't even acknowledge him. It leads him to the principal's office and says like, walks in, and he's like, I found these gentlemen in the bathroom throwing dice. Mr. Principal, do whatever you need to do, and turns around and leaves. And then, like, OJ also, like, just stands up and starts walking out the door. And the principal says, where are you going, Simpson? And he's like, I was just helping the coach bring these guys in. I wasn't there. And they didn't say anything to him, and he walked out, and he got away with it. I just thought that was
a good story.
It was funny. It made me laugh.
I didn't know where that was going when they were telling him. Like, oh, he got in trouble, or he had talked his way out of it somehow, since apparently he talked his way out of it. Another story like that is apparently he stole his best friend's girlfriend, just like that. Like, yeah, that was it.
Yeah, and like not too long later, like the 3 of them would hang out.
I think the guy, spoiler alert here, the guy he did that to, like his best friend, I think we saw him a couple times, and like when it was on the stand or whatever, like he's the guy that was driving the Bronco. That guy.
Yeah.
He's the driver.
I didn't know they'd known each other that long. I recognized his name as the guy who drove the van or whatever. I didn't know they were childhood friends. I just mistakenly assumed that like they met playing in the NFL together.
Do you believe this story, David, that Jeff Van Gundy told the other night that he was listening to the goddamn Rockets-Knicks Game 5 in the van, or in the Bronco?
Yeah, I kind of do.
Okay, this was in Los Angeles. This was 94. Knicks Houston. I don't know what national radio there was back then. I don't know who carried this game. So, just from a geography standpoint, it's like, I mean, could LA get? I'm sure LA could get radio somehow, or some national outlet.
Yeah, I mean, there had to have been some national way to get it on the radio even 20 plus years ago, but it would make sense for him to be listening to it. what else is he going to be listening to? I mean, it's kind of funny under the circumstances. But
O.J. Simpson was this big star is what this first part was all about. And it ends with him meeting his second wife, his future wife, that he ends up killing. Does this kind of put a end to the myth or put a chink in the armor of the myth that you have to be in some big media market to be worth the damn as far as this is concerned? Maybe back then, but even in the 70s, it didn't matter for him. He was apparently the biggest star going. And now it sure as hell shouldn't matter because it doesn't matter if you're in Oklahoma City or Portland or New York. Does that really matter anymore? Media market?
I think you can create your own star a hell of a lot easier now than you could 10, 20 years ago. It's a lot more access to everybody. If you're not in one of those major media markets, you can create a brand and you're good enough at whatever you do. People are going to find you without being. You can be in Portland and people find you just easy as a star in LA or New York. NBA. Switching this to NBA terms real quick, that was always the thing. Oh, it's always better when in Los Angeles, Boston, New York, they're all good because the stars go there and it's easier to follow. Well, in the NBA and not in the NBA in general, if someone's talented and if they live in a town of 500 people, they're going to be found and people are going to start following them and paying attention to what they do.
I think it's probably also worth noting that, like, depending just on how much you care about fame, I mean, if you're in, like, New York or Los Angeles, I mean, like, you can be a big deal, but you're just one of many guys that are a big deal, where if you're in, you know, Green Bay or Oklahoma City or Portland, you could essentially be, like, the most famous person in the city, period. And, you know, some guys like that kind of stuff. Some guys don't care about that as much, but I think it's worth noting that if you just want to be beloved in a city, it would be, or at least I think, it would be easier in a city where there's not as many other sports and not as many other. I mean, like in Los Angeles, like you're dealing with like Hollywood too, which I mean, there's good aspects of it, but if you just want to be like, you know, the biggest deal in the city, that's really tough to do, athlete-wise. Where if you're in Oklahoma City, that would be, I think it's probably pretty easy for Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook to just be like, yep, we can do whatever we want in this city as long as, you know, we're not murdering people and, you know, we're the biggest attractions that they've got.
I mean, LeBron's in Cleveland, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It wouldn't matter if he was in Sacramento or fucking Hawaii. He'd be the guy no matter what. And I would say, similar to that point, if I'm a mid-major, whatever you want to call it, SDSU level school, I would much rather be in a town of Brookings in the middle of nowhere where there's nothing going on rather than a Minneapolis or Charlotte, Orlando, Miami, any bigger town. I'd much rather be in a town of 20,000 in the middle of nowhere because that's the only show in town. And if you're in Charlotte or Nashville and you're the, at best, 8th biggest thing going on that day ever, nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to show up. So you're much better off being the one thing in the town of nothing rather than the 8th best thing in the town of a lot of stuff. So.
And in general, that's how it is in almost every college town or every big-time school. I mean, there's a few exceptions, obviously, but most of them are just places between, you know, like 15 and 60 or 70,000 people where the university is the biggest deal.
This first part was about his football career. Probably not going to see much of that. They got 4 more of these left. The next one looks like it's going to, I don't know what it's going to get into. Maybe it gets into, maybe the cliffhanger at the end is right up to the killing. What are these next 4 things going to be about? This one, next one, last one.
My understanding is the last one is like all just after the trial's over and done with. So my guess is that the second one's just going to be where it goes from, like, OJ's this guy that everyone loves to, you know, this guy who not many people know but, like, starts, I guess, beating up his wife all the time. And then, I mean, I think that it'll probably also end with her with the murders in the second one.
Spoilers here. Jesus Christ. There's spoilers on the internet. Yeah, I would say probably the third one may be the whole trial deal. The fourth one would probably be a Kanye West Kardashian special would be the fourth one. And then the fifth one, yeah, like you said, afterwards. So what is this? Tuesday? Tuesday's the next one?
I think so.
Is it every other day after that, or is it like the NBA Finals where there's gotta be 3 days between these things?
Well, they've got to travel to different cities.
They do. They got to
get a day of rest.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, Tuesday, Thursday, whatever it is. It's pretty good, whatever it is. I don't know if I would want to watch the whole thing at once, like maybe some people did, where it's like 7 hours. Maybe, I watched this without the commercials, and it was an hour and a half, and I was like, all right, that's enough for one.
There's some things I can binge watch. I don't know if I'd want to watch 7 straight hours of just this though. You'd want to break it up some. I would, especially as they go into more. I mean, like, I think it's safe to assume at some point they're probably going to delve fairly heavily into like the Rodney King stuff too, which is. I mean, I don't know. Obviously, this is not going to be like a documentary where everything's like happy and good all the time. There's going to be like shitty stuff in it too. And I mean, I don't want to like pretend like I know how everyone else does, but with stuff like that, I've definitely got like a limit where it's like, okay, I want to do something like happier or watch something more uplifting for a little while.
Any other subject could they tackle that you could do something like this? 10 hours, almost 10 hours worth.
Like just person or like events?
Anything. Sport, because this is a sports guy, even though what happened doesn't involve sports whatsoever. It was just a guy that played football, and that's how he made his name at first. I don't know what else you could, like a 30 for 30 where you could do a thing like this. This is one of the biggest stories, not only if it's sports related, or one of the biggest stories in the country in the last 20, 30, 40 years.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else sports-wise that you could do this much on. I mean,
maybe Stacken's honeymoon, but that's about it.
Jesus Christ.
I don't know. Like even with this, I don't know if you could get like 5 episodes on, but I suppose if you wanted to do something on like the integration of like black players into big time football in the South and how it took them longer. But even then, like I don't know if you could do like 7 or 8 hours on that. You could, but at some point you're just going to be repeating the same thing over and over and over again.
The Ken Burns baseball thing is a lengthy son of a bitch, but that is the history of something. It is the history of the game 150 years ago.
Yeah, that's all of it.
I mean, that is all of it.
Have either of you guys watched that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I also have. Good. I would say it's quite good, but yeah, there's especially the first, for me at least, basically everything before they got to Babe Ruth was a little bit of a slog to get through. And then once it started being like, oh yeah, I know who they're talking about, it was significantly more interesting, I thought.
And the thing they did a couple of years ago with the updating over the last 20 years, that was good too. It'd be good to see if baseball or football could do one of those. That'd be good. Also, another point, wrapping that up, similar to the Buffalo City thing, it was like, O.J. Simpson, L.A., this big Hollywood star, and Buffalo, they're like Pittsburgh, this blue-collar town, and they just didn't take to O.J. Simpson. What the hell does that matter? I mean, Jesus Christ. I mean, does that matter at all? As long as he's good, they don't give it, oh, yeah, this guy, he's not one of us. He's from L.A. We work at the goddamn iron ore shop. Look at us.
Well, they even said something like that during the thing, that OJ, like they were talking about sports, and he was like, well, the thing I like about and this was, I think, while he was at USC, the thing that I like about sports is that, at least at that point in time, in the late 60s, it was like, well, they don't care what race you are as long as you're good, that's all that it, And he didn't say this, but it's like sports in a lot of ways is like the ultimate form of capitalism, where it's just like, yep, if you can do it, as when you're successful, we don't really care. That's all that ultimately matters.
NBA Finals might wrap up tomorrow night. Might wrap up a couple nights from now.
Can I make a motion?
Yes.
Can we keep the NBA Finals talk like a minute because there's really not anything to talk about anymore?
My question is Curry going to be the MVP?
Of the series, well, he made a hell of a lot better case than he did in the first 3 games in Game 4. If he has a good closeout Game 5, yeah, he'll probably be the MVP.
Anybody? Draymond Green had a couple good games.
I was going to say, I don't have the stats of anybody, but
Yeah.
Green's the only other Golden State guy I can think of that like stuck out for at least multiple games as someone that really played well.
Any word on the parade? We're still waiting for that parade date. I don't know if it's going to be Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be Thursday.
We'll have to contact Alman. I'm sure he's got all the details figured out.
We're waiting. We're waiting for it. NBA, there was something on Deadspin where they had a thing where there's been more like 15-point blowouts where the average margin of victory has been like 14.5, 15 points. And like even the thing that people are going to remember about the playoffs will be the Oklahoma City series with Golden State, and even that was more so Oklahoma State pulling off these upsets and going on this run that people didn't think they'd go on. Even those early games, they beat the hell out of the Warriors by like 30 points and 20 points in a couple of these games. So it didn't really get close until like games 5, 6, or 7. So like even like the Heat and the Hornets, Heat are better, but they have like a 30-point victory. They're not 30 points better. What the hell was the deal this year with these games that just were not close at all anywhere?
Yeah, it's just a weird set of circumstances where some of the series anyways, like that Heat Charlotte one went to Game 7 and then Miami beat them by 30 plus in Game 7. It's just random the way it broke down. They're all just like this series. Cleveland goes out and beats them by 30 in Game 3. It's like, well, okay, maybe that might have a 2% chance now, making this interesting anyways. And then Game 4, they're looking good, and then all of a sudden Golden State remembers that it's Golden State, one of the best 2 or 3 teams ever, and now it looks like that tomorrow night would be a 30-point blowout Golden State win and be all over. The league is top-heavy, and it's not as deep as people think it is. It's competitive to a certain extent, but there are certain matchups and certain teams that you know over the course that you're going to get some shit fest, and the lack of resiliency out of some of these teams that are in the middle of the pack is quite frustrating. That's why you see if a team gets down by 15, and instead of fighting, oh yeah, well screw it, we'll come back and game whatever the next game and try it again, and they end up losing by 30 in the game they're already down by a lot. It's not good for the NBA, but it is what it is, and I'm already looking forward to next season because I'm a sucker for it, and I think it'll be better than it was this year.
If we take out the Golden State Oklahoma City 7-game series, like how awful would this playoffs truly be? I mean, there were a few games.
How about this?
That were good, but
how about this?
I mean, like the only other game I can think of. I mean, I guess Game 4 of the NBA Finals. I mean, like it was okay. I think it's kind of skewed because there had been so many other bad games that this decent game's like, oh, hey, that was fun. But if you take away that and you take away 2 or 3 of the Oklahoma City over San Antonio games, and it's just like, this has just been brutal. I mean, this reminds me of like the early 2000s
Yep.
of the BCS, where it would be like, oh, well, we had these 4 bowl games, and none of them were any good. Some team won their conference title that shouldn't have, and then they lost to Florida by 35 in the Sugar Bowl. And it also reminds me of the Lakers murdering everybody in the playoffs.
Yes. If you just take out Oklahoma City, and that's, I mean, if you just take them out of the deal, and it's because they were the story of the playoffs there, up 3-1, and beating the Spurs. So that was unbelievable. The Cubs keep on rolling, 42-18. I think they're on pace for right around 115, 116 wins. So that's the all-time record there. I think David said something like, what was it, 100 wins, 100 losses, Braves, Cubs. I think we can bump that up here to about 110 for each.
I think what I was after was maybe 105 wins, which was more likely 105 wins for the Cubs or 105 losses for the Braves, and I think we all
both are going to happen.
Yeah, both seem very likely in hell. At the pace they're going, the Twins might be in the 105 loss category too, but we'll see.
Which number's the highest? Cubs wins, Braves losses, or Twins losses at the end of the year?
I'd say Braves losses.
I'd probably agree with that.
I think they're going to lose 110. I think they're in for a long fucking summer.
What's the record for most losses in a year?
The most losses in a single calendar year is in the 120s, I think.
Ugh.
I had the Tigers there in 03 had like 119, 120 losses.
That's right. Didn't they? And that was the year that they had some pitcher that had was the first 20-game loser in like 3 or 4 decades or something like that.
Yeah. And they had another guy that was 17, 18, 19 losses.
Ugh.
Like 62 Mets, their first year, they lost like 120 games. They were awful. Cubs keep rolling. I mean, this is, even you can look at it now. It seems pretty clear. Cubs are going to be your 1 seed. Washington and the Mets, one of them is going to be a wild card. One of them is winning that division. And, Giants, they're my World Series pick. They're up by 4. They're right in there. And it seems like you got, Cardinals, Pirates, Dodgers. That's your final team right there. So it's everybody who we expected, exactly right there. My Phillies hanging strong, only 4 games under. Let's not lose 90. Let's not lose 90 games. Let's try that out for once. So, Twins are awful. Things are as bad as they've ever been. Tyler Duffy was their best pitcher. He's been awful the last month.
Things are changing now, though. Just see the move they made
today. Don't tell me.
Yeah, today.
What is it? Pitching related?
Yep.
Did they bring back Brios?
No, it's very insignificant, but it's kind of funny. They claimed somebody off waivers.
Oh, Jesus Christ! Who's
and
this?
Well, they moved Phil Hughes to the 60-day DL, so his season's effectively in jeopardy. But they claimed fucking Neil Ramirez from the Brewers as their big. He's gonna change the bullpen around for him. So
I love
that spark they need.
My thing, the whole off season, I think we put together fucking blogs. Get me bullpen guys. Get me 2-3 bullpen guys. They signed fucking Fernando Abad to a non-roster invitee. Makes the team, and he's been their by far. He's been their best reliever all season long. A non-roster invitee. Spend $5-6 million on a guy instead of spending $12 million on shit starting pitchers or average at best. Spend half of that to bring in a fucking Tyler Clippard, some 7th, 8th inning guy who's been decent, and do it that way. And now, since the bullpen is awful, Kevin Jepsen is making Matt Capps look halfway decent. Doing all these moves, bringing these guys up. I mean, this bullpen is just shit. And now they're trying to scramble and put something together. It's like, well, fuck. Don't rely on Perkins, who got hurt at the end of last year and is hurt again. Jepsen got to be better than this. He pitched better than what you should have expected last year, but he shouldn't be this goddamn bad. And Trevor May should be a starter, and now he's hurt. And he was good for a while, and he's just fallen off a goddamn cliff, I assume, because he's hurt. But just their inability to sign any bullpen guy or to ever invest in the bullpen in this era, where all it is about guys throwing 100 out of the bullpen since the starters don't go 5 innings anymore. Just ridiculous as far as building a team that way. Trash.
Travis, question for you that Schottenkirk and I briefly talked about on Facebook yesterday. Who's got a better roster, the Minnesota Twins right now or the Cleveland Indians at the beginning of Major League?
Well, like the Twins, the thing about the Twins have a better roster, I would say. The Twins roster, it's not bad. It's just guys are just playing like total shit. Buxton, and we've talked about him a million times, and Snow got off to a slow start, and then he picked it up, and now he's hurt. And Mauer's having his best year that he's had in a few years, but Dozier has just went back to what he was 3 years ago. And Plouffe seemed like he's peaked. And Escobar has peaked, and Ed Nunez is going to be the all-star guy, and I'm going to want to trade him for a fucking third-string catcher. And, Rosario's in the minor leagues, and Arcia just is Arcia. And Max Kepler's just coming up, and he's hitting about the same as Buxton and not very good. And Suzuki, Asian Kurt is just the shits. And the starting pitching is gonorrhea. Like, it's just... the starting pitching is... The hitting, the hitting's been awful as well. But the starting pitching, and there's not a goddamn guy right now. Duffy's been awful. My guy, Pat Dean, that was a good 2 starts. There's nobody out there now who can say, Irvin Santana's kind of been reliable. He pitched like 5 good innings the other night and gave it all up in the 6th. Besides him, you're like, maybe he can go 5 innings, 6 innings. There's not a single guy out there that you'd be shocked. Well, he only went to 3 innings today, gave up 6 runs. It's just, the starting pitching is just atrocious. Beyond compare. It's terrific. What was the vibe like for your Red Sox 15 Twins 4 on Brian Dozier Kids Jersey Day?
It was Adult Jersey Day, which was even better. But
Great.
It was. They were down 4-0 in the first inning. And it was kind of like, well, here we go again. And they made it a close game and tied it up in the 6th. And then Boston scores 5 times in the 8th and 5 times in the 9th. And you look up and holy shit, it's a 15-4 game. And by that time, half the crowd was already gone. It was hotter than hell. People were bitching and moaning and spending $8 on beer, and that wasn't working to keep them cool, so they just decided to leave. But it was pretty pathetic, cheering for Boston a lot, cheering for David Ortiz a lot, which I guess in a roundabout way, fine if you want to, go ahead. But I was honestly embarrassed. It was a lack of effort in some, or a lack of, not necessarily effort, but a lack of being in the game at all as mentally as a team. There's more stupid errors, more stupid bonehead mistakes in the field, horrible at-bats by a few guys you didn't expect it out of, and they're 18-43 for a reason. They're on pace for 115 losses for a reason, and I gave my tickets away for today because I couldn't put myself through it again. So
I'm not at all on board of let's rah-rah Ortiz one more time, shall we? My God.
And it was they had a ceremony pregame Friday night. They honored him and they gave him whatever, and they did that. Okay, fine. But when he was introduced, he was the biggest crowd of anybody, including all the Twins. He get a bigger during the starting lineup introductions, whatever. His first at bat, standing ovation by most of the crowd. Second at bat, loud applause. Third at bat, loud applause. Fourth at bat, fucking loud applause.
Is that Red Sox fans?
There's
Twins fans there too.
It was both. There was a shitload of Boston Red Sox fans there, but it was both. It was the Red Sox fans and a bunch of Twins fans that were applauding every time he was announcing as he took his 6 hours to walk to the plate like he usually does, and it was frustrating. And it's sure as shit funny. Big Pop.
Well, I mean, he's got to walk slow because he's got to get those cortisone shots to make sure that his joints don't lock up.
I was going with the slow that in the third inning he absolutely destroyed a baseball off the right field wall. It was a single. In the 6th inning, he destroyed another baseball, and it on the fly, it hit like halfway up the center field wall. It was a single. He didn't even attempt to go to second on either one, and he's lining balls off the wall. But it's the slowest guy in the major leagues. He's limping down to first base trying to get there before the ball comes back in. But I have a hard time to believe that he's actually going to retire at year's end with how good he's playing right now. But
may have
a couple doubles that he legged out into singles.
Where's my goddamn thumb?
Yes, it should have. For 99.9% everybody else in Major League Baseball, both those would have been doubles. But Big Papi, he was basically walking by the time he got to first base with both of them.
What the hell's going on here? There we go.
If you take away the fact that he hit the ball deep to the outfield, and you just looked at him running, did it look like he was running to the base, or did it look like he just got walked?
Well, the second one, the one he hit the center, was a little bit more of a jog, anyways. But the first one that he hit the right, it was kind of like in one of those beer league softball leagues. The guy he hits it and he sits there and stares at it, hoping it goes over the fence, so he doesn't have to run. but it didn't go over the fence. Then he waddled the first real quick to make sure he wasn't thrown out at first. But he literally, I think he was thinking it was a home run, and he stood there for a second too long, and then he had to waddle quickly to first after it hit the wall. But
Thank God he wasn't Yasiel Puig, or he would have been benched for a month.
It was pretty funny though.
We got a special guest coming in the lounge, live on the lounge here. We got a special guest. Any takers here? Any takers?
Is Drew gonna join us?
No.
Oh.
Is it Blake?
Nope.
Stacken's hands, just his hands, picture of him.
Close.
Stacken's face.
Nope, here he is. He's standing right there. Hold on.
It's Marcus.
Nope, they're trying to guess who the
Yeah.
special guest is coming up here. They don't know.
If it's Wyatt, I'll shit myself.
Mike Miller.
Wyatt Rogenkamp!
Oh my God, it's Wyatt!
Bring him in, folks!
Oh,
Bring him
Jesus
in!
Christ.
Bring him in! Texas himself. Here we go.
Oh, Jesus
Here he is,
Christ. Here we
folks.
go.
Let's bring him in.
Wyatt.
Fresh off the farm. There he is, folks.
There he is, right there.
Fresh
I
off
might have to pull my picture up here. Give me a second so I can actually see him face to face.
fresh off of all the hoes at the wedding last night. Citrus Bowl. What do we got for a trivia, quick?
That's just his cover. He's doing wet work for the CIA right now.
You want my trivia question real quick that it's going to last like 5 seconds?
Sure.
Okay, there's 24 teams in this year's edition of the European Championship Soccer Tournament. All European countries, obviously. Name me one of the 24 teams. We'll just go back and forth. And
Well,
see
assuming this is Europe, so
Okay,
European team?
just for
yes.
my sake, this is like, I'm not going to use a European country just in case. But
Right.
this would be like, I would say Brazil, not, Brazil United Arsenal. It's the country, not a specific team name.
Correct. Just these are all
Okay.
just country. These are all country national teams. Yes.
This is
Okay.
the World Cup of Europe. Is this right?
Essentially, yeah.
There's 24 teams?
24 teams in this year's competition. Just name me one of the 24. We'll start with Charlie.
Let's see. Name a country that was involved in World War II.
I'm
gonna go.
in this too.
I'm going to go with Germany.
Can't hear, can you?
Germany is in the competition. Yes. They are actually in the next game that starts here in about 10 minutes.
Go with Czechoslovakia.
Czechoslovakia, aka the Czech Republic. If you're going that route, I'll give it to you.
Name there's a soccer tournament called Euro 2016. Apparently, these are countries in Europe having a soccer tournament. We are trying to guess the countries. Charlie said Germany.
Yep.
You can't guess Germany or the Czech Republic. Every
I said
other
the Czech
European
Republic.
country's on the table.
Ukraine.
You're about
Ukraine is in. Yes, 3 for 3. Holy shit! Here we go. Back to Charlie.
I am going to guess Spain.
Spain, yes.
about Italy.
Italy, yes.
How many is there?
24 apparently.
24, and you guys have named 5 so far.
Look at us go.
Switzerland.
Switzerland, yes. Too good. Too good.
I am going to go with France.
France, yes. They're the host country this year.
What about England? Nobody said England.
England, yes. You guys are 8 for 8. This is amazing.
Sweden.
Yes, 9 for 9. Let's go.
Man, I'm getting nervous. I don't want to be the first one to get one wrong. I'm going to go with Portugal.
Portugal, yes. You bet.
Well, how many? There's got to be. Or is every country in Europe involved?
No, there's a few big countries in Europe that are not involved, and there's a lot of smaller island-type countries that are not involved, but a decent majority of the mainland Europe is involved.
Iceland up there. About Norway.
Well, could have stuck with Iceland because Norway's not in this year.
Iceland.
Spain.
Spain's already been said, but you take another crack at it.
Charlie hanging on here for the win.
How about Poland?
Poland, yes, they just won their first ever opening match just a little while ago today.
How about this? How about this? If I would have told you, Charlie, 5 minutes ago, you'd be tied with Wyatt in a soccer trivia question, you would have said what?
I would have said that you're so full of shit that you smell the high heaven. I don't know. Wouldn't have bought it. Would not have bought it. And unfortunately, he stole my answer of Poland, so I got to think of another country now. Let's see. I will go with Belgium.
Belgium, yes. One of the favorites to win the whole thing.
That's you. I'm out.
Lithuania.
Whoa.
Lithuania, we're going deep here.
Easy.
Going real deep. And unfortunately, no, they're not in this year.
Not in the deal here.
Charlie for the win.
Ukraine.
Well, Ukraine's been said already, but we'll consider it a win anyways because you guys did a lot better than I thought you would.
I've got the list up here.
Yeah. There's a couple.
This is where I get like. There's some places I don't remember if they're countries or cities in Europe. I was gonna say the Netherlands, and then I was like, wait, is that just part of the country? I don't remember. And then I didn't want to sound like an idiot American who didn't know anything about European geography.
Right. The Netherlands are usually a power, but they did not qualify this year. So
Oh, it's a good thing I didn't guess that then.
well, Turkey's in. Some of the other ones: Turkey, Croatia, Northern Ireland, and Ireland. Both of them are in this year individually. Russia, Slovakia, Wales, Albania. I don't think anybody said Sweden, maybe.
Yeah, I did.
That's Sweden.
And then Austria, the only one that was not said. So very well done. I'm impressed.
Austria.
Very good. Any final thoughts?
Arnold's pissed we didn't say Austria.
Have we covered it all?
I think so. Oh, U.S. Open preview. You want a U.S. Open preview?
Sure. Well, how many shots will Jason Day win by? 5 or 6?
Let's go 5.5.
5.5 shots.
But anyways, U.S. Open quick preview, and it'll probably be something on the blog, hopefully tomorrow, or maybe even tonight. But at Oakmont, historic venue, one of the hardest venues in the world. It's actually pretty wide open, but the rough is incredibly penalizing. A lot of bunkers, a very lengthy course for the pars to be playing to. Conditions right now, there's been videos posted. The greens are as fast as they ever have been at Oakmont, which is not good considering its history. If it doesn't rain sometime Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is going to be an absolute shit show. Regardless, it's going to be an absolute shit show. The winning score will absolutely be over par unless they go super easy Saturday, Sunday setup-wise, which they probably won't. Jason Day, a favorite. Rory McIlroy, a favorite. As Jordan Spieth, obviously defending champion, will be in the mix. I'm not too convinced he'll win due to his recent struggles with the big stick. A lot of fun just outside of Pittsburgh. Great course, great fans. Should be a great time. I'm looking forward to the carnage come Saturday and Sunday. And hopefully, for old time's sake, the defending champion at Oakmont, hopefully he's in contention again so Charlie can have an excuse to watch more intently than he does, and Angel Cabrera could be in the final group. That would make everything right with the world.
I always pay a little more attention to the majors. I mean, I'm not going to lie to you and say I'm going to be heavily invested on Thursday and Friday, but I'll probably start watching at about noon on Sunday and have a pretty good idea what's going on.
What I will say, coverage-wise, if you do want to watch anymore, which if you don't, I fully understand you doing whatever, but coverage with Fox, what they're doing this year, there's going to be almost 12 hours of live coverage all 4 days on either Fox or FS1. So if you want to see any shot, anywhere, any hole, anybody, you'll be able to see it this year on TV, and if not, the feature groups will the feature groups will be on USOpen.com as well as usual. So as far as TV coverage, this is probably as extensive as it's ever been, which it provides a lot more people the opportunity to watch more coverage, which is always a thing around the Masters with only a couple hours each day. This is the total opposite of that, which I find very good for the non-diehard fans to get a little bit more acclimation to it.
Unfortunately, we're probably not going to get the thing because Cleveland won't cooperate, so we can't have the U.S. Open leading into Game 7 of the NBA Finals.
Correct.
It could happen, but I think it's unlikely.
I have no idea how.
The other interesting aspect, if San Jose beats Pittsburgh tonight, be Game 7 on Wednesday night. So Wednesday night, Game 7 in Pittsburgh, the Stanley Cup, and then Thursday morning will be the opening round of the U.S. Open just outside of Pittsburgh. So that's it's not quite the same, but it's still interesting with Game 7 of a very important sport in this country around the same time. But definitely not Cleveland Game 7 like I was hoping for.
It would be fun, though, if it went Stanley Cup into U.S. Open for a few days into Game 7 of the NBA Finals. That would be a fun little 4 or 5 sports days.
Definitely.
We have one viewer. Who do we think it is?
Probably Marcus, Drew, Stacking.
If it's
Barack
Stacking,
I'm going to guess.
oh my. Considering I know nobody else really has the link to it, so it's going to be one of those guys.
What if it's O.J. Simpson?
What? I don't know if Stacking got pissed off about anything this week, but what will Stacking get pissed off about next week? He didn't have a big problem with the Manny Machado punching Ventura in the head. Anything coming up?
I like this. We can make this a weekly segment. Predict what Stacking's going to be upset about.
Our first blush guess and my thought, which I actually has some credence to it, if the rumor is true and if Draymond Green gets suspended for Game 5 tomorrow night, he'll be probably very, very upset in tomorrow morning's blog.
No. He will be very excited about that.
No, you think so?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
I think he could go the other way. I think he could go the other way and go against the NBA, saying that the NBA is trying to rig it so the series gets extended.
He wants Draymond Green suspended so goddamn bad.
Okay, all right.
Bad.
So Schottenkirk's going with Draymond getting suspended. I'm going to go with he's going to double down on Brazil and Zika in the Olympics.
I like your idea way better already. Holy shit. That's the ace right there. I should have went that way. I think you nailed it on the head.
The only reason I think I went with that is because on my way home from work last night, I was listening to sports radio, and some guy was just, not a caller, the host was, going off about Zika and the Olympics and how no one should go there. And for, 15 seconds, I was like, is this actually Stacking on the radio right now?
Mm-hmm. If the Braves fire their manager again and get pissed off about that, I'll say it's golf related. Somebody will feel like a 6 over will win it. I'm like, damn it, it's too high of a score.
There aren't enough stars in golf.
That's right, not enough blacks in golf. At least one. You went to a wedding yesterday. Any thoughts on that?
You went to a wedding reception yesterday. Any thoughts on that?
You were there for the whole goddamn thing.
Oh well, it was
good.
It was the shortest Catholic wedding I've ever been to. Just under an hour.
How would you rate the party?
The party out of 5 stars, out of 10 stars, or
10 out of 10.
8.
Give it an 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10.
Breaking news from Marcus Drexler. Draymond just got suspended, so here we go.
For good. There we go. You heard it here second, folks.
You guys remember, middle school science, where you have to rate, rocks and materials on how hard they are? How hard is Stacking about Draymond getting suspended?
He's a 14.
Diamond? Is he diamond on this right now?
He's a diamond. He's hard as hell. Too bad we can't show his glee here. I'm sure he's just bursting with excitement. Or maybe he won't find out until Wednesday. I don't know. One or the other will happen. Charlie Hildebrand winning the trivia.
Also,
yes,
we're going to get Stacking for the stack tomorrow with the suspension. This is what it's going to be. Cleveland wins because Draymond's suspended. Cleveland wins Game 6 because Cleveland is in Cleveland again, setting up Game 7. Mark it down. That's my stack. That's my stack attack prediction of what Stack's gonna write about.
Could be. Charlie wins the soccer trivia, so he's defending champ on that. Schottenkirk, we had 2 of them there for a second. We're now back down to 1 Schottenkirk, no more cloning. Surprise gas, took a while to guess. Boots Camp right here, folks. Right here, hook 'em horns. They going to beat Notre Dame?
Yes.
Look at this guy.
By the hair of my chin, chin, chin.
Predictions already.
They'll lose by.
It's been a while since I've won trivia. I didn't think it would be soccer that would get back on the winning side.
Lounge 173 in the books. Talk about the Warriors, great season next week, and talk about Jason Day winning the U.S. Open. There you go.